1933. The deadlock in the Weimar elections finally led to a gruesome 6 year civil war. In September the 1st, 1939, the USSR, under the pretext of defending the workers of Germany, invaded Poland. The United Kingdom and the French Republic were quick to declare their support for the Polish Republic. And finally, the crusade that right wingers had been announcing against the Soviet Union since that day on 1917 came to light. Just 3 days after the invasion of Poland, the USSR was now at war with most of continental Europe. The battle for Poland lasted until January the 5th, 1940, when much of Poland effectively came under Soviet control. The Polish People's Republic was established under General Secretary Stanislaw Ratkiewicz. The Soviet Union then pushed ever westward into what's now known as the Great Liberation War. The front remained static in Pomerania with Anglo-French forces entrenched, and United States Senator William Borah coined the term phony war for the 10 months period of the Second World War, where no changes happened on the front. Finally, on May 10, 1941, a border spark in the Soviet-Romanian border unleashed a second front in the Balkans, ending the phony war. Soviet troops pushed the government of Czechoslovakia to its knees and finally agreed to let the Soviets move its troops inside Czechoslovakia. A new Czechoslovak Socialist Republic was proclaimed under Klement Gotenwald. Romania fell quickly in less than 2 months. Hungary fell in less than 6 days. And by August 1941, the Soviets had landed in Bulgaria, opening a third front. The hitherto ignored Soviet army, which Europe had disregarded and discarded as a useless force of human meat, had not only destroyed the Allies but had conquered much of continental Europe within a few years. By January 1942, Europe was now divided between Soviet East and Anglo-French West. The Japanese Empire led to the entry of the United States in the Second World War soon after. However, the quick Japanese success in China proved to be a threat for the Soviet Union. Also, the Japanese attacked the United States, sparking another massive war in the Pacific. Then a strange thing happened. On November 7, 1944, the US and the USSR signed a treaty of friendship and cooperation, as Europe had now antagonized the US for not helping them enough during the war with the USSR. This came as a shock to the world. Many people blame the US for betraying Europe. On January 15, 1945, Soviet troops finally destroyed what remained of the Athens pocket, declaring the Balkans fully liberated. The Soviet Union had also invaded Turkey earlier in 1943 and had established a new communist republic in Turkey under Mustafa Subhi. Now the Soviets faced harsh resistance from the partisans in Greece and Albania, until Stalin approved Zacharidis and Hogza, who were chosen to be leaders of the new Hellenic Socialist Republic and the People's Republic of Albania. On July 7, 1945, the USSR launched Operation Uranus. As the name suggests, the USSR tried to take Lyon in a matter of 9 days. By the day 7, the USSR had already reached Amsterdam and Brussels. Stalin, with high confidence, now stretched the First Belarusian Front under Marshal Sergei Shtemenko. The Soviet military was now cut off from the main front in the Dunkirk siege. However, Stalin urged his men to fight on, else they be executed. The war finally ended on May 9, 1946, when the red flag flew across Copenhagen, Denmark. With neither side able to claim total victory, the war came to a hasty end. Europe, at least Western Europe, had survived the war, but only merely so. And the Soviet Union had taken most of Eastern and Central Europe, but had been unable to complete their war goal of conquering Europe. And that's where the timeline truly begins. The rest of the timeline will easily be explained from the following pictures. So this is Of course, you can clearly see it here. It is the leaders of the Russians. So, in this scenario, Santa Claus lived until 1934. He was succeeded by the big bad wolf who led until 1959. Then we got Vyacheslav Molotov, followed by Boris Ponomarev, Leonid Brezhnev, Yuri Andropov, and then Konstantin Katushev, Yuri Gagarin, the astronaut, Gennady Zyuganov, and then we got, he doesn't really need an introduction. Their GDP nominal is 16,463 and their PPP is $23 million, which is the second largest in the world. And this is the West German list of leaders. Some leaders, they did not come to power in OTL. Instead, they came to power after the war and they had to become moderates. And then here we see a list of presidents. So in this scenario, instead of Truman, we had Henry Wallace, followed by Dewey. And this is a list of the premiers. So the hardliners came to power in 1976, and so the Cultural Revolution continues, and it presumably continued up until 1991 when finally Deng Liqun and the Orthodox faction took over in China. But the effects of this prolonged cultural revolution has taken a serious toll on China. China in this timeline is not wealthy, but instead it is the ninth largest GDP in this world. It's not really doing well. And then here we have a list of British PMs in this timeline. So Hugh Gaitskell finally got his chance between 63 and 64, but he still perished. He died in 1964. And then Wilson took over, but after that, the hardliners of the Tory under Enoch Powell won the elections. And after that, it was just going from one branch of radicalism and Euroscepticism to another. So, in this timeline, Britain is a whole lot more divided politically and Eurosceptic. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn came to power in 2015. He is of the left wing of the Labour Party. Dew et Mondroit. And this is a list of Indonesian presidents. So Sukarno was succeeded by Colonel Abdul Haris Nasution, who basically runs a right-wing junta until 75. He is succeeded by the Sultan, and this is another right-wing junta, and then it's a liberal technocracy followed by an Islamic democracy. And finally, once again, we return to the days of Sukarno in the elections of 2021. And the Indonesian missile crisis is one of the main events of this timeline. Following the end of the Second World War, the USSR emerged as one of the three superpowers. In 1961, Georgy Malenkov saw the opportunity to place its missile in the nation's most eastern territory of Papua. The operation began in May 1962 and it went undetected until British spy planes detected the unusual movements of cargo ships in the Strait of Moluccas on September 2nd, 1962. Now, what exactly this missile crisis is a matter of debate. But if you want to continue to follow this timeline, then join the Cold War Iron Curtain mod Discord and contact Yuri. Thank you.